Heyo there, Groovy Fox here. And today we're actually coming at you guys with a quick review for Ready or Not. Starring Samara Weaving, Adam Brody, and Andie Macdowell, the basic premise of this film is Grace, played by Samara Weaving, is actually meeting her in-laws for the first time. She's getting married to her fiancé, Alex, who is a member of the Ladomas Gaming Dominion. They're a rich old family, but Alex doesn't actually get along too well with his family. So this is the first time she's meeting any of them, and it is at their wedding, which is always fun. Now, all in all, I really thoroughly enjoyed this film. If you go back and watch my trailer reaction for this, which I released a couple of weeks ago, I kind of described this movie as what appeared to be a combination of You're Next and Clue. And it was right on the money. Now, if you're one of those kinds of people that likes to go into a movie totally unaware and get totally surprised by what you see, I would try to avoid the trailers, because the trailers actually are pretty spoilish. They do give away the whole plot of the film, and I am going to pretty much give away the plot of the film in this review as well. So, spoiler warning, you've been warned, don't come at me. But she marries into this family, and they decide after their wedding night that they want to play a game. It's part of their tradition. It's just what they believe is one of those kinds of things that they need to do to keep everything successful in their family. Because the Ladomas Gaming Dominion is actually a family that's actually made its riches by producing board games and things like that. So they like to just play games. Why you want to do that on your wedding night? I don't know. It's just one of those things. It all ties into the plot and about how they kind of amass their wealth and stuff like that by making kind of a shady deal, as you would say. Samara Weaving was just fantastic in this film. There's just something about those eyes, those big eyes, that they're just perfect for horror. And she was entirely believable throughout the film. Just watching her kind of sneak around the house, trying to find a hiding space, trying to get along with the family, trying to play along with the game at the very beginning. It was actually just really entertaining in a lot of different ways. I actually saw this movie with my wife, and she actually loved it as well. We both had a great time seeing this. So if you're out there and you're looking for a good date movie and you don't mind a little bit of horror tinge to it, I definitely recommend going and seeing Ready or Not. I recommend going and seeing Ready or Not if you're just a fan of movies in general. The basic premise of it isn't that outlandish. It doesn't do too much original, but what it does really well. It was well shot. I enjoyed the score in it. I actually enjoyed the score in this film because there were parts during the wedding where the score actually took on a lot more of a classical cue, as in my opinion. And then as we moved on to more of the hunt aspect of the film and more of the chase aspect of the film, there was a little bit more of a modern approach to the music. So it kind of changed up the tone of the score to kind of accentuate what was going on in the different parts of the movie. And I thought it was actually really great. I was actually really impressed by the score by itself. Adam Brody was fantastic in this movie. Usually I find him annoying, but he was a little bit understated, and a lot of his character mannerisms kind of came from the situation that he's in. And as they kind of explain that a little bit, not going into it too much of a depth, you kind of get where he's coming from. So it actually just makes him a bit more relatable and a lot more understandable. So he doesn't have to go too in your face with this kind of comedy. He's not too snarky. He just gives you just enough just to enjoy it. Andie Macdowell is actually fantastic in this movie as well. She plays the mother of Alex and Daniel, Alex is the fiance, Daniel is Adam Brody's character, who is his brother, and she's actually very welcoming to Grace. She actually really likes Grace. She tells Grace that when she married into the family, a lot of them thought that she was just a gold digger as well, and that she eventually won them over, and that Grace could be the new her, and that's how she sees her. She tells her that when she saw Grace for the first time, she said to her husband, one of them finally brought home a good one, because most of their other kids' spouses are all gold diggers and just jerks. Now, I do have one bit of a negative in this film, and that is that you do get to see a lot of the scenes with the family. So the dynamic that they have is actually pretty interesting. They're all rich people being naughty, you know what I mean? The only issue that I really have is by this kind of being a kind of survival horror film a little bit, in a way. We'll call it a survival horror film. Yeah, I did it. Can't unsay it now. I kind of wanted her to have a direct confrontation with the family members a little bit more than what she did in the film. So throughout most of the films, it's accidental deaths of the help which is played off for comedy, and there's some gore to it, don't get me wrong, and I really enjoyed it. But for the most part, it wasn't too intense, and I think that if there was a little bit more of a direct confrontation between the two of them, then that could have added a little bit more to the horror element. Because make no mistake, while this movie is great, it is a little bit leaning more to the side of comedy than it is horror. The horror isn't too overt. It is a little bit more like Clue than it is You're Next. It's not a full-on survival horror film, but it does have elements of the both woven together really, really well, and I actually found it pretty enjoyable. Considering this movie, I think not sure what the budget was. I think its opening weekend gross was only $10 million. And as I said in my trailer reaction video, go watch that if you haven't seen it yet. It seems like the kind of film that can actually go down and create a cult following. I actually foresee a lot of people coming to see this movie after the fact and actually really enjoying it. Again, it doesn't do too much that we haven't seen before, but what it does really well. I also really enjoyed the location for the film. Most of the film is set in interiors as well, so the house, the mansion, whatever you want to call it, while not exactly a haunted house or a horror house, it does have a lot of atmosphere to it with the secret passages and things like that that make it actually really, really interesting. Even just watching Grace kind of scooting around and looking for hiding places and stuff like that, wondering where someone might pop out at some point in the film. I also found that to actually be really interesting too. Now, I'm going to get a little bit more into spoilers. When the film opens up, there is a little bit of a flashback scene, so you actually get to see who the great aunt was and what happened during her wedding night when they played hide and seek. And you get to see Alex and Daniel as young children kind of participating in a way that Emily, her sister-in-law's children, participate in the movie as we move forward and see Grace's wedding night. Which is really great because it sets up the film really well from the beginning. But then you actually move to the credit roll, I believe, and you actually see some of the different games that they actually have on the shelf to play. Games like Family Ritual, games like LeBain's Gambit. And if you pay attention to some of those games, it actually kind of gives you a little bit of a hint as to some of the stuff that's going to come forward later in the film. And I actually thought that was actually really clever. I was paying close attention to that, and I actually noticed, I was like, they kind of gave us a little bit of a hint as to what was going to be happening, and it was really, really subtle, and I'm not sure if a lot of people picked up on it. You would know if you saw the trailers beforehand, but if you hadn't, it was actually pretty clever, I thought. Now, the whole point of this hunt is to actually appease this deal that they made with a somewhat supernatural figure that the great-grandfather did. This man named LeBain. Now what they do is they play a game anytime somebody enters the family, anytime somebody marries in, and it's always a random game. Sometimes it can be a good game, sometimes it could be a bad game. It could be Old Maid or the bad game, hide and seek. And there was actually a great little song that they play at the start, which I really, really liked too. I thought it was kind of charming. And hide and seek is the one game that you don't want, because whenever they play hide and seek, something bad's going to happen to somebody. But it turns out there is a slight tinge of supernatural element to this. Questionably. You don't know full on till the end of the movie. Is this something that's really going to happen? They say that if they don't play the game, if they don't keep up the tradition, that terrible things could happen to the family. Anytime that people haven't played the game in their family in the past, terrible things have happened to them. So it has to be maintained so that the success of the family can keep moving forward. Or it could possibly lead to all of their deaths. That's just why they're so intent on hunting down and completing the game. Now, it was actually pretty interesting. She actually evades the family throughout most of the film. Most of the deaths are actually caused by the family members themselves actually getting familiar with their weapons. And there's a hilarious scene with the sister-in-law Emily where like every time they hand her something, she ends up killing one of their own helpers, one of their maids or something like that. So it was actually really, really entertaining. Now, the whole point of this film is when they finally get to the end of the film, you actually find out whether or not there really is that slight supernatural element at foot. It's not overt, but they do definitively answer that question in a really surprising scene at the end. I'm not going to spoil it, but I was like, they went there. When they got to the ending, it was a slight hint of something like Cabin in the Woods. Not exactly, but if you've seen Cabin in the Woods and you know where the ending of that movie kind of went and where it comes out, that's my only hint. But we are going to get to Groovy's Gore Score, and I'm going to break down all the deaths in this film for you guys. So even if you don't see the movie, or if you go and see the movie after watching this, you'll know what to expect. But I definitely recommend go see this movie. If you don't want to pay full price, go find it on a matinee. Take your loved one with you, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever. Even just a good friend that maybe you have a crush on, or just a good friend that you just really like. But this was a great movie. If you like to laugh at movies and you like a little bit of gore, then I would definitely recommend this film. I thought it was fantastic. I would all in all give this movie 100% a 9 out of 10. I just liked it that much. I would definitely go see this movie again because I just enjoyed it thoroughly. Neither one of us, me or my wife, wanted to get up and go to the bathroom in those last 15 minutes because we weren't sure, how is this movie going to end? Where are they going to go? Are they going to go full on? Are they going to show us whether or not anything bad's going to happen if they don't complete their family ritual? It was actually just really great. And I enjoyed every minute of the movie. There were some slight little issues. I thought that one of the characters' turn at the end of the film between helping Grace and helping the family kind of came a little bit out of nowhere, but if you actually look at the context of the scene where it kind of happened, I can kind of see where it made a little bit of sense because, you know, she's not going to want to stick around with the family after thriving this night, even if she does get away. So, there's that. That's my only gripe with the film. Other than that, I pretty much thought this was fantastic. I highly recommend that you guys go see it for yourselves and see it and let me know. But without further ado, we're breaking down the Gore Score for you guys right now. Alright, now for the Gore Score in mostly chronological order, we have 1. A bullet to the head. We get 1 arrow to the mouth, and deep throating that bad boy didn't actually finish the job, so we get 1 off-screen, mercy-killing, axe-induced decapitation. 1 person crushed in half by a dumbwaiter, as dumb as that sounds. 1 gunshot wound to the hand, complete with crow-inspired peephole shot. 1 kid taking a punch to the face, he was a jerk, he had it coming. 1 accidental hole in the hand pegging scene on a rusty nail. Ooh. 1 scalded face when tea time turns violent. Probably should have let that simmer for a few more minutes, buddy. 1 on the ground choke out fake out. 1 crashed car with slow-mo rolo cab. 1 bullet to the neck by gold digging spouse. It's cheaper than a divorce. 1 group poisoning scene with bloody vomiting. Not enough to kill, but I'll allow it. 1 catfight ending with vigorous head bashing. 1 accidental dive into a moldy corpse pit with bonus made cadaver dumping scene. And finally, 1 climactic scene of familial gore explosion, counting 8 bodies in total popping in bloody mess with tiny little bits, including 2 children happening off screen. Alright guys, and that brings us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you really enjoyed it though, maybe share it with a friend. Maybe hit that subscribe button too so you don't miss out on any more groovy content. Other than that, I am gonna, as always, leave a link to my Twitch channel in the video description. Follow me over there for more live groovy content. We love to talk about movies, comic books, whatever you guys want to talk about, whatever's interesting to you. We usually have some really interesting conversations with some cool people. Other than that, I'm outie. I got some more videos to review, always stuff to talk about. So I'll see you all next time. Make sure you guys stay safe, stay classy, but most of all, stay groovy.